For this video, let's go ahead and go over all the new camera features while also covering some tips and tricks that you could do on not just on the iPhone 11 Pro, but you could also apply some of these on the iPhone 11. And in case you're left wondering, no, I will not be removing this case off my iPhone to allow my phone to be more presentable on camera. Reason being because last time I took it off its case on my previous iPhone for a video, it fell from a desktop height, landed on carpet, and magically shattered the backside glass off my iPhone. I'm not going to risk that happening to my new iPhone, and even though it has the title of World's Strongest Glass, at the end of the day, it still is glass, it's still going to crack and shatter. Not even vehicle windshields are this durable, and I hardly doubt Apple Glass will make that much of a difference. So with that said, let's go ahead and start this video and start off inside the camera application. Now the UI might look familiar if you used an iPhone in the past, but the UI innovated some new features and moved some things around. For example, depending on the iPhone you're using, but on an iPhone Pro, you have these numbers right here that allow you to toggle through the many different lenses you have, from the ultra wide, telephoto, and wide angle lens. But here there's also a new feature that's not really well covered. This new feature, in the photo tab, if you actually press and hold on the shutter button, it's going to begin recording a video clip. And if you slide that little recorder to the right side, it locks into place. And also gives us a new button. When you press on this little smaller button, it actually takes a photo while it's recording. And then of course, to end it, simply just tap the record button. But if you still want that burst functionality, you're more than capable of just doing that. Just simply slide to the left instead of the right side and it does the burst. Now night mode is a new feature that's new for these newer generation iPhones and works incredibly well, but there's a couple things I learned by using night mode. Now by default, as soon as you launch the camera app in a low light environment, night mode will automatically be enabled. It only does this if you have your flash disabled, so make sure you have that disabled for the phone to automatically switch. But here you are actually given this little scroll wheel right here. You could leave it on auto, which is perfectly fine. It shows you the preview right there in the viewfinder. But if you mess with it for like a longer exposure, it's gonna get brighter. And if you shorten it, well, you have the idea. But I really do recommend to play with the second timer because I've been seeing a lot of people get creative and creating almost light painting effects. Like this photo that I took, I made these cars look faster than they really are traveling. And something that I learned for best overall result when using night mode, use a tripod, because this photo, for example, I took by simply just holding my phone by hand. But then on the next photo, in the exact same situation, keep in mind this is just an example photo, the quality isn't that amazing, night mode is so much better, but there was barely any light. But when I put this phone on my tripod and use the same second timer, 3 seconds, there's a night and day difference. You could tell which light is more brighter than the other. So when you have your phone on a tripod when using night mode, you get better results. Now moving along, there's a new grayed out arrow above here. When you tap on this gives you access to different things you could do on your camera now. Like we have shortcuts for the flash as well as the live photo, but right here you could actually change the ratio of your photos. So 16:9 or a square to make it Instagram ready. Next to that is the shutter timer, so you could put like a second countdown to get in front of the camera to make a quick pose. And next to that, it's some filters that you may apply as well. Now switching from the front facing camera, you may actually digitally zoom, and you still have access to that menu control by tapping the little grayed out arrow above. Just something to keep in mind, when taking selfies, it's best to leave the camera on landscape mode. Because on landscape mode, it's actually using the full 12 megapixel camera size. When you have it on portrait mode, it's actually down to 7 megapixels. So even by rotating it, you can see it zooms in and zooms out just a bit. So for the best resolution result, leave it on landscape mode when it comes to taking selfies. But right above here, you still can toggle your live photo mode if you like, and all your other settings. So the ultra wide lens that's found on the iPhone 11 Pro is really fun to play with. Of course it does an excellent job when it tries to get everything into frame, but you could really get creative and take some really unique looking shots. If you get the right angle, you can make certain objects look really odd, or make other subjects look a lot longer than they really seem. Just keep things PG-13. But with this new incredible autofocus phase detection, you could get really close to objects and take some incredible close-up shots. Now the viewfinder on these newer iPhones, in the photos section, you can see the outline of the other lens in case you want to switch to it. It does this so you could quickly preview the next lens if you want to switch to it. And I really do like this feature because this just shows that the iPhone really does take advantage of all the cameras at once. But if you don't select the lens, the camera will be smart enough to detect what lens would be appropriate to use once it's actually focused on the subject, because as you notice, the borders just get darker. That's when it's ready. Now, you can still pinch and zoom when it comes to taking photos or videos, but if you need to get that sweet zoom spot, by simply just holding down the zoom, it'll bring up the zoom wheel, which allows you to scroll so you get that nice sweet spot, and the software does an amazing job from transitioning from different lenses that this iPhone has. Now, in case this is your first iPhone with live photo support, you might be unfamiliar with its benefits. But the way it works, by having live photo enabled, as soon as you take a photo and you go into your library, when you tap on the picture and hold it for 1 or 2 seconds, it's actually going to preview it. So you can actually relive the moment. So it plays like a little clip. But now let's say you took a photo and you have this feature enabled, and you notice that somebody in the photo that you took a photo of blinked. By having this enabled, if you actually tap edit, you can actually reselect the part of that clip to be the main photo, so you don't have to actually retake that photo. That's one of the key advantages by having this feature enabled. Now back to the application in the photo section. We should be familiar by tapping on the screen. It's going to allow the iPhone to focus a lot quicker. But if you hold down, you can actually lock the autofocus. But not only that, you can also adjust the brightness by simply swiping up or down. And also, don't forget, the volume rockers can also behave like the shutter button, so you don't have to press on the screen to take a photo. You can also use headphones too, like by tapping on the volume button. Now in the recording tab side of things, you still have access to all the different lenses like you did on the photo section. But with this new zoom wheel, you can actually create the dolly zoom effect, which is a really cool cinematic look that looks like this. You could easily recreate this effect by simply locking on a subject, bring up the zoom wheel, and then as you're approaching the subject, zoom towards the opposite direction. When done properly, it does like this warp speed effect. No real software is involved for doing this besides the zoom. This is actually like a cool trick that I like to do to add that cool cinematic look. But that's just a little personal trick I like to do. But this next one is actually a new feature that Apple innovated, and this is called the audio zoom. I don't know how Apple managed to create something like this, but the way it works, whenever you're recording and you zoom in towards a subject that's creating sound, it somehow eliminates the sound around it and just focus on the subject. Here, take a listen. Yeah, it does that. It's really cool and can also be a really cool cinematic effect. Moving on, portrait mode is now fully supported to be used on pets and also subjects or any other objects. You can also switch from the telephoto lens to the wide lens, and all the many different modes are right there and available to adjust to your liking. This mode is also fully supported on the front-facing camera. And then on the panorama part of things, switch to the new ultra-wide lens. That allows you to capture a lot more than ever before in one take. Now this next one, this one's a personal pro tip, but whenever you have to like hand over your phone to like a friend or a stranger to take a photo, in case you ever find yourself having to do that, I recommend to disable the Face ID lock, because whenever you pass your phone down to somebody like that, you run the risk of that person running off with your unlocked phone. Well, to eliminate that risk from happening, if you actually press on the volume up and then quickly press on volume down and toggle the power button, it's going to bring you to this screen. Simply tap cancel, and now the Face ID is actually disabled. Now whenever you hand off your phone like that, they're not going to have access to anything else besides the camera. This way there's less risk whenever you're handing off your phone to a complete stranger. That's just a personal trick that I recommend others to do. And once you re-enter your PIN code, Face ID goes back to normal. Now these next features require you to go inside the setting application by simply tapping on the settings and go down to camera, and in here, this is where the next new features are found. Here is not only where you select the resolution for all your cameras, which by the way, on these newer iPhones, every camera can shoot up to 4K at 60 FPS, which is incredible because that is also including the front-facing camera. But down here is where you also adjust the slow-mo. That's including the front-facing camera as well. So you could take those slow fees if that's your style. But the main feature in here has to be the new not competition, why can't I say it?
Composition.
When this is enabled, whenever you take a photo or video, depending on which one you selected, whatever footage gets captured, the other lens is also going to record or capture that as well. So the wider lens will also save some of that data. This is awesome because let's say for example you took a photo and then the subject that you're trying to get to frame is out of frame. Since you had that enabled, you can actually go into your photo library, tap edit, and go on the little crop tab, hit this little dot right here, and right here you see it says use content out of side frame. And by tapping this, boom, there we go. We have a more wider field of view from that photo. So there's no need to retake anything, especially when it comes to capturing moments. Again, you could do the exact same thing on video as well. Just keep in mind this does use up more storage, but this will automatically be deleted within 30 days. So you have 30 days to readjust it in case you miss something. But other than that, those were all the new features, new tricks that you could do on these latest iPhones. Be sure to stay tuned for this upcoming Filmic Pro application video, where I'm actually going to go ahead and go over some more tips and features that you could do inside that application that will allow you to record from all 4 cameras at once. I can't wait to show you that. But in the meantime, if you want to check out some Face ID hidden features, make sure to check on this video right here. I go through a lot of cool little tips and tricks about Face ID that you probably didn't know about. And then this video over here, that is a video that YouTube is recommending specifically for you. They think you're gonna like it. Go ahead and check it out and let me know in the comment section if YouTube was right. But thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time.